This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it, and the next time Impact has a big reveal that's been built up to for a year and a half, they won't ruin the moment by cutting away from it the second it happens. I have to admit, it was really refreshing to see Impact kick off with a match this week. You know, way too often in this business, you see wrestling shows fall into a certain cookie-cutter format, and as a result, they become kind of formulaic. Like 99 times out of 100, you know Raw is going to start off with a 15 to 25-minute opening promo, and Impact does most of the time these days too. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but after a while, it does start to feel awfully repetitive. So when they started with the Monsters Ball match right off the bat this week, I thought, hey, that's a nice change of pace. And what a match this was, too. There was some pretty sick stuff here. Eric Young gets pushed off the turnbuckle and goes through a table on the floor. Abyss took a sunset flip powerbomb onto thumbtacks, for God's sake. I mean, holy shit, I hurt just watching that. I bet Abyss is happy he doesn't have to take bumps like that every week anymore. Wow. A damn good match, with a pretty momentous ending. Eric pulls the mask off, and he finally reveals to the entire world what pretty much every single one of us knew 18 months ago, that Joseph Park is Abyss. But as happy as I am that they finally let the cat out of the bag, all I could think about while this was happening was how much more this reveal would have meant if they'd done it like 8 or 10 months ago. They just dragged their feet for so long, getting to the point with this that it really didn't have the impact that it should have, because I think a lot of people had stopped caring by now. Still, the match was great, and this was an interesting moment in and of itself. It's just a shame that the moment was instantly ruined. Instead of simply being quiet and letting this play out in awed silence, once again the announcers would not shut their freaking traps. Yap, 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 yap. Not to mention that Mike Tenay completely undersold it. He didn't sound surprised or excited or anything, really. He sounded about as interested as he ever does, and by that I mean he sounded kind of bored. And then, the worst offense in all this, they cut away from it almost instantly.
You people are fools!
Are you kidding me? You built up to this moment for a year and a half, and then you cut away to the next segment so fast it was like it wasn't a big deal at all. Maybe the writers figured that because they'd waited so damn long to do it, it really wasn't a big deal anymore. But why the hell would you give it so much build-up if you were just going to half-ass the big reveal like this and not treat it with any kind of reverence? Let the moment happen, tell the announcers to keep their damn mouths shut, spend a minute or two on it, quietly fade to commercials, do replays when you come back. It's not that complicated. I felt bad for Eric and Abyss here. They put all this effort into that great match, and their performances were top-notch, but then the moment is kind of thrown away because there was zero attention devoted to presenting the unmasking properly. And you can't get that moment back now, TNA. It's gone. You only had one chance to do it right, and you blew it.
As a result, your arteries are now clogged. You sweat when you eat. And you are all constipated.
MVP had his first of 2 in-ring promos this week. He talks about how he was able to come up with enough money to buy a stake in TNA. They did an okay job explaining that, I guess. Not a great job, but an okay job. And I've been informed that it is possible to do this without the company being publicly traded, so I'm willing to buy some of this, but it still makes no damn sense that he was able to acquire some kind of controlling interest in the company without Dixie Carter ever knowing about it. They still haven't explained that, and I don't think they're going to. That's kind of annoying. Really? You, of all people, are complaining about that? That's pretty ironic. Anyway, he interacts with Rockstar Spud. He books Kurt Angle versus Magnus for that night. And I've never been a huge MVP fan or anything, but this promo was very, very good. He was comfortable, the crowd liked him, he came off great. Easily one of the strongest promos we've seen on this show in a while. Good stuff. Bully Ray quotes Coolio of all people. I'm not sure why. He pile drives Curry Man and puts him in that coffin he's been lugging around to hype the casket match with Anderson next week. I don't know what I was supposed to take away from this. It wasn't really disturbing, it was just a pile driver on the mat. We saw a much more dangerous pile driver when Anderson took out Garrett Bischoff a few months ago. And then he just put Curry Man in the coffin, and that was it. Look, unless you happen to be The Undertaker, it takes a little more than that to sell this gimmick. So you put him in a coffin, Bully, so what? Is there a danger of him suffocating in there? Are there deadly scorpions in the coffin with him? If not, I'm pretty sure Curry Man is going to be okay. And this segment kind of fell flat to me, to be honest. It didn't make me excited for the Anderson match next week. It was just kind of there. TNA, let me ask you a question. If you were just going to throw away Zema Ion's title shot like this, why even bother having him win the briefcase at all? Austin Aries is cutting a promo about how he plans to carry the X Division Championship all the way to Option C this summer, though with any luck it won't take the greatest man that ever lived that long to get another world title shot. He's interrupted by the Bromance, who distract him so Ion can get the jump on him from behind. Ion then cashes in his Feast or Fire title shot and loses to Aries in about 2 minutes. You know, when Zema Ion won that briefcase, I was really hoping the writers would make more of it than what we got here. Why even have him cash in if you were just going to dump on him like this? It made Aries look great, I appreciated that, but I felt bad for Ion here. Maybe it'll go somewhere later, but this just felt like kind of a waste. Unsurprisingly, Zema Ion's association with the Bromance has done absolutely nothing for him so far. Anyone else not surprised? That's what I thought.
You guys suck.
You know one of my big pet peeves in wrestling? When the characters act like they don't watch the show. I was actually pleasantly surprised by this development of Christy Hemme breaking off her affair with Samuel Shaw. Not because she felt guilty about cheating on her husband, apparently she's just fine with that, but because she actually saw the video that aired on Impact of him and that weird mannequin shrine thing he made of her, and it creeped her out, thus proving that Christy Hemme actually watches the show. You would think something like that would go without saying, but it really doesn't. I actually like this very much, especially after that angle on Raw where Daniel Bryan gets kidnapped by a fucking cult and his fiancée doesn't even know about it because she's too busy getting an autographed football from Michael Strahan to watch the match or even glance at one of the backstage monitors that are all over the arena. But no, nothing like that here. Christy Hemme actually watches the show. It was kind of cool how simple this was, actually. I'm still not sure how security camera footage from Samuel Shaw's apartment ended up on Impact. That's kind of a head-scratcher, but other than that, I got a kick out of this. When I look at TNA's roster and the current main event picture, and I think about what big matches they can make that could potentially draw something and are relatively fresh, Magnus vs. Kurt Angle is pretty high on that list. And I really didn't like the idea of giving that away with so little fanfare like this, when that's something you really should give some build-up to. Thankfully, it was just a tease for a match that will hopefully happen at some point later on. Magnus is about to lose. Again, really don't like that. But then EC3 interferes and really beats the shit out of Kurt Angle. I don't know what Angle did to incur the wrath of wrestling's greatest hero, but if EC3 was this pissed off at him, then I'm sure Angle got exactly what he deserved. Whether EC3 was trying to get Aunt D's attention or simply trying to prove himself, we don't know yet, but I like this a lot. I like this character showing more of a mean streak and looking dangerous for a change. EC3 being the spoiled, pampered kid getting fed easy opponents and always taking shortcuts was only going to take him so far. As entertaining as that was, eventually they were going to have to do this with him to evolve the character and make him more of a player. And I think this came off really well. They teased a potential future confrontation with Magnus and Kurt Angle nicely. They started to establish EC3 as a more serious heel. And if this leads to a match at Lockdown with Kurt Angle, like I'm assuming it will, then they just put EC3 in a big-time spot that he could stand to get a really nice rub from. God willing, he'll make a lot more of this opportunity than Wes Briscoe did last year.
Of all the greats I have studied, I assure you I have never heard of that man.
Oh, Chris Sabin, you scoundrel. Sabin has Velvet Sky meet him in the room where they had their first kiss several years ago, which technically would not have existed because the Hydro Arena didn't exist several years ago. Just roll with it. So he makes Velvet think that he's going to do one thing, and then he does another thing. And long story short, these two are going to have a match next week.
Say what?
Oh, boy. So we're really going to do this, huh? Okay. Yeah, now they're really done. Because Chris Sabin is a man, goddammit. He's wearing the pants in this relationship, and it's only over when he says it's over. And now it's fucking over. You damn Skippy. I like this. This was pretty enjoyable. Sabin looks like he's having a lot of fun playing this complete douchebag character, and Velvet especially I thought was really good here. This would not have worked if she hadn't sold it well, but she went through several different emotions in this segment, from surprised and excited to being crushed and humiliated, all really quickly. And she's been a little hit and miss with this stuff lately, but as I was watching this, I said to myself, that was a nice little piece of acting there. That was a good performance from Velvet, and this was a good segment because of that. Now, am I looking forward to their match next week? No, I have no desire to see that. No spoilers here, but I'm really hoping that something or someone will put a stop to it before it happens. The second in-ring MVP promo this show ended with felt awfully superfluous. Not that it was bad or anything, it wasn't, but they didn't really cover any new ground. He basically just said that there's going to be some changes coming soon. Not this week, but soon, because he's not riding the Dixie train, and in fact he doesn't like the way Dixie Carter's been running things. Didn't we already kind of know that? I mean, there was this, and the backstage pre-tape, and the first promo he did, and it could be done in one segment, guys. Especially since all the time spent on this stuff caused Aries and Ion to be way too short, caused the Bobby Roode Samoa Joe main event to get cut short, and that was a good match, but it was several minutes and a bunch more near falls away from being any better than that. Bear in mind, Samoa Joe is one half of your upcoming pay-per-view main event, and this is 2 weeks in a row now where you've kind of undercut him at a really bad time. Otherwise, they are doing a good job rebuilding Joe back into a main eventer. He's like the last top babyface now that hasn't been taken out, and it's pretty cool that it's all down to him now. I just don't want to see him get overshadowed by MVP when he's the one headlining Lockdown next month. But MVP is TNA's latest ex-WWE guy, so they gotta pimp him out all over the show in segments he doesn't really need to be in, overexpose him until he doesn't feel special anymore, because TNA just never freaking learned this lesson, even though they have proved recently that they can get good ratings without a lot of star power. I guess we had to expect this. Just don't forget about Samoa Joe in the process, TNA. That's all I ask. This was not a bad episode at all, but it didn't feel like an eventful episode either, mainly because of the MVP stuff. I was hoping something more would happen with that, but instead it kind of felt like they were just stalling with this angle until they got in front of a fresh crowd next week. Still, they had some good promos, some good matches, some other storylines were progressed, the angle with Bobby Roode and Dixie is really interesting, so they might have been holding back some stuff for later, but they still delivered a pretty good impact this week regardless. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Oh, hell yeah. Of course he fell for it. I told you he would. Like a deer in the headlights. It was hysterical. He damn near pissed himself. Classic. Hey, listen, I gotta get going. Yeah, he's giving me the look. I think he's about to start bitching again. Yeah. Alright. We'll talk later. What? Just so I'm 100% clear on this, there is no new owner of my channel. There never was. No shit, Sherlock. And I'm assuming that this whole charade was nothing more than another one of your twisted mind games intended to slowly but surely drive me insane. But there's one thing I don't get. You knew there was no endgame here. You knew the truth would come out eventually. Hell, you revealed it yourself. So aren't you at all bothered by the fact that this scheme you concocted about something being for sale when it never was has revealed you to be nothing more than a lying, self-serving, self-aggrandizing bullshit artist? Not really. It got me attention. And that was all I wanted. Well, fuck you very much. I guess that wraps up everything. That's it. I can't talk about this anymore. That's all for this video, guys. And hopefully, the next time Fourth Dimension Fool Killer shows up to make my life a living hell, it won't be in a way that will ultimately be completely fucking pointless like this turned out to be. Peace. Out.